So I'm going to have a conversation about my process on going to school and so forth. I've answered this before, but I have some other questions around it from this commenter. Hi, my name is Dr. Natalie Jones. I'm a licensed therapist. This commenter is saying, honestly, I would like to know about your process in going to school, cost loans. I'm graduating with a BS in biology, but going into clinical psychology, specifically with my end goal being a pediatric psychologist. But I'm worried about the work to life balance while in school, as well as the cost of a Black student. My process is probably going to be a lot different than yours. I graduated with my doctorate in psychology in 2016 under the current administration and all of the things that are going on. I don't know how that's going to affect, everything that's going on. One thing I do know for sure is a degree in psychology is considered a professional degree, which is good news for you. So a PsyD is considered a professional degree, which is what I have. So one of the things that I would recommend first and foremost is, being clear on what your goals are. And it sounds like you're getting pretty clear. The clearer you are straight from the get-go, that's going to help determine your outcome. I've known what I wanted to do since I was 13 years old. So, stay on your path. Bang it out in terms of your career and don't stray from that. Don't go in there getting confused and turned around and, all that kind of stuff, because you're going to end up wasting a lot of time and a lot of money. And I don't know that you have that kind of, I don't know that anybody really has that kind of luxury anymore under the current administration and what they're about to be doing with school funding. So I don't know what's to come with respect to that. So the one thing that I will say is you want to, in my opinion, I would stay away from online schools. I don't know what you want to do in terms of pediatric psychology. If you want to do court work, if you want to do evaluations, if you want to work with little kids, I don't know what you want to do within that realm. But, if you want to do anything with respect to like I do court work, with respect to, anything beyond just your typical seeing someone in your office, you definitely, in my opinion, would want to, you want to go to a school that has credibility, has a name, that sort of stuff. So, look around, see where you can go. Make sure your school is accredited, APA and Wasc. WASC accredited is what you want to do. If you don't, you run the risk, and many of my colleagues found this out. I forgot the name of that school, but it was a big school closing, and a lot of them found out the hard way. It just turned out into a big mess. So schools can close if they don't have the accreditation. So my advice would be to go to a school that's APA accredited. Try to do internships that are APA accredited. That way you don't have any problems with getting licensed in any state. Sometimes if you don't do that, a lot of people try to go the online school route and, do all this other stuff, and they find out the hard way that they don't their licenses don't transfer. They don't qualify for reciprocity within certain states and so forth. So my advice would be to definitely go to a professional school that has a reputation and that has the proper accreditation. See what you can do about getting funding ahead of time. So try to go for scholarships and all of that kind of good stuff. Try to procure that. Again, I don't know where that's going to be when you end up going to school. It is also a good idea to see how much funding you qualify for, and make sure it's appropriate for whatever school you want to go to. You don't want to go, like when I was going to school, I think it was like $1,100 per credit hour. So you want to make sure your loans and whatnot, scholarships cover that. You don't want to be, stuck with a big bill over that. Try to make sure your number one, I definitely tried to make sure my work experience coincided with my grad school. I did not have a good work-life balance. I still technically don't. I worked 2 or 3 jobs the whole time I went to school. I don't recommend doing that. In fact, if you can swing it, I recommend not working and just focusing on your schoolwork. When you go to a clinical psychology program, you'll end up having to do practicums and internships. So that's essentially like working a job and going to school anyway, except you won't be getting paid for the bulk of that time, unfortunately. So if you can swing it, if you have supportive parents, if you can get funding, try to get as much of that as possible so that you don't have to do like I did. But you know, I worked 2 or 3 jobs and did it that way. Don't try to shortchange anything. There's so many people that I know that don't want to do the work, and that's why they end up going to the online schools. And while the online schools are attractive, and you know, I don't really want to get into any conflict with people around that, but you know, a lot of people who do that don't have good experience or good training in doing the assessments. So doing psychological and neuropsychological assessments. They don't have good training or good experience in case conceptualization or report writing. That was where I got my first taste of report writing and things like that, and training and learning how to write as though a lawyer was looking over my shoulder. And I still get training and such on report writing. So don't try to shortcut anything. Definitely try to get a mentor as early as you can, and see if you can get someone to help mentor you, and keep having different mentors, but try to get them in the field in which you're wanting to do. But the sooner you can nail down what you want to do in pediatric psychology, the better that's going to be, and that's going to determine your trajectory. Another thing that happened when I was going to school is there was this big push into multiculturalism and diversity. I hate to say this and not to be cynical, but don't fall for the hype around that. Just go for the best of the schools, because that multicultural stuff and that diversity stuff, I really believe that those are gimmicks for funding and things like that for those schools. Behind the scenes, most schools don't really, at least the ones that I've been to, they don't really honor that kind of stuff. So, you know, recognize that, you know, if you choose another school, you may be the one Black person out of, I don't know, a program of something, you know. So that would be my advice there. So just recognize that you may be faced with adversities as a Black student, no matter where you go to school. But sometimes, you know, when I was going, oh, we love diversity, you know, that was all lip service. I found in my experience, you know, behind that lip service, there wasn't really much to follow behind that. Get started on your dissertation research as early as possible. Try not to work if you can, you know, have a job while you're doing your dissertation. That in and of itself turns into a job. Really try to go in and bang that out as well, and do something that you can be proud of. That's what my chair told me, and that's what I'm going to pass on to you. And I still reference that. My career follows that. You know, so I really feel like my dissertation helped to really formulate just how I show up professionally in the work that I teach and that I practice. Stay the course and focus on your studies, and I say that so that you can focus more on that as opposed to building friendships. It's good if you have colleagues or peers from grad school that you can kind of, you know, go on with, but those will usually be few and far between. Definitely stay the course in getting your doctorate, and don't settle for getting just a master's. and all that kind of stuff. Those are great degrees, but the professional degree is going to be the doctorate in psychology as of right now. And therefore, you're likely to get funding according to what's going on right now for that degree.